Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the book that he's read this week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, the book I've read this week is this one. It's called The Killing Stones by author Anne Cleeves, published as a hardback in the United Kingdom by Macmillan on the 7th of October 2025, and helpfully tells us on the front of the book that this is the return of Jimmy Perez, Detective Jimmy Perez. Best known for featuring in Anne Cleeves' Shetland series, which was some of those books have been turned into a successful TV series, so a well-known character. This book, however, is advertised as Jimmy Perez and Willow Reeves 1. So what's Jimmy up to in this one? Well, Jimmy's moved from Shetland, his previous domain, to Orkney. He's moved with Willow Reeves, his boss, and his partner. Willow's responsible for policing on the islands. Stepdaughter Cassie, young son James, and just to add to the fun, Willow is heavily pregnant, so there's another child on the way. So Jimmy's getting used to being basically a lone cop. Well, he's got a couple of assistants, but there are a small police force on Orkney, and Jimmy's getting used to the ways and the culture of the place again, and he knows some of the people there. So we see Jimmy getting used to Willow being pregnant. It's coming up to Christmas. There's lots of things going on. There's a ceremonial game that takes place in the town on every Christmas day called the Bar, which is basically a glorified rugby scrum. But so a lot going on, and all of a sudden there's a terrible storm, and they're used to terrible storms in that part of the world, and they ride it out. But the thing that's worrying him is that there's an islander gone missing, a guy called Archie Stout. Now, he's a very close friend of Jim. Jim has known him for years, and technically he's a distant relative as well. Nobody can find Archie, and everybody's getting a bit worried because Archie's a larger-than-life character, but he's not daft enough to stay out in the middle of a heavy storm. Well, sadly, Archie's body is found. He's found at the remains of an archaeological dig has been covered up with tarpaulin, and he's found there, and he's got blunt force trauma. Basically, somebody's bashed his head in. But the weapon they've used is what's known as one of the story stones. There were two stones held in the Heritage Museum, and they're of Neolithic origin. But at some time, when the Vikings invaded that part of the world, they've had some stories written on them. Basically, Viking graffiti, for want of a better term. So they're known as the story stones, and this is an area of great archaeological interest. So looks like A, the stones have been stolen from the Heritage Museum, and B, one of them has been used to murder Archie. This obviously is a bit of a blow, clearly a blow to Archie, but it's a blow to everyone, because this sort of thing doesn't happen in the islands. Everybody knows each other, and all of a sudden suspicion is being cast on various people. Why has the murderer used one of what's known as the story stones to commit the murder? Is there a relationship between that and the murderer? So we have a whole bunch of characters that Jimmy has. Is basically he's contacting his superiors in Glasgow, and it's getting near Christmas. The weather's rough. There are flights cancelled, and he's basically on his own, because he knows that no one's going to want to come to the Orkney Islands a couple of days before Christmas and risk getting stranded. So he's working with this small team. He's got a couple of people helping him in the local police station, but it's basically down to him to solve this murder. And unfortunately, other murders occur. So that's the nub of the story. It's Jimmy trying to work out who's responsible for the murder, and there's all sorts of people on the island. It's a small island with secrets. There are visitors, there are people that have interest in archaeology, he says, bird watchers. So lots of people that have moved to the island for peace and quiet, that people don't quite know what their history is. So it's a usual murder mystery where we get taken down a few alleys, blind alleys, where you think that a certain person is the perpetrator and isn't, and eventually the perpetrator is revealed, and it's quite left field. Where did that one come from? So it's a really good police procedural, really good murder mystery. You feel empathy for the character because Jim is getting to know being back on Orkney. He's dealing with his wife, who's his partner, shall I say, who's his boss. He's dealing with the fact that he knew one of the first murder victim, and all in all, it's you feel empathy with Jimmy. And at the end of the book, it's got I was wondering, is this all getting too much? Should I jack this in? And he says, well, hang on a minute, who else is going to do this? So, yeah, I suspect we'll see another Jimmy and Willow book, basically in the Orkneys, in the near future. But obviously, the book is called The Killing Stones, which refers to the story stones which we used in the first murder. Good read, 362 pages. Really enjoyed it. I'd recommend it if you're a fan of Jimmy Perez and the Shetland series. You'll enjoy this. If you just like a nice police procedural murder mystery, again, really enjoyable book. It's well written. It's reasonably well paced. It's certainly very atmospheric. You get the atmosphere of, you get the feel of being on the small island, and the fact that, it's difficult to get off of these places in the winter at times, and particularly during storms. So, you'll also probably want a cup of tea because the people, the Orcadians, are known for their hospitality. So everywhere that Jimmy goes, somebody offers him a cup of tea. If you're reading this book, you think, I could do with a cup of tea, but that's a sideline. So, very enjoyable read. I'd recommend it. I think that's it for this week's brief book review. Thanks for watching. 10:10 till we do it again.